Hi, welcome to part 2 of Learn German with Harry Potter. If you missed the first part, I'll put a link down below in the description. Today, we're going to continue going through the text of the first chapter of the first book in German, Harry Potter und der Stein der Weisen. We're going to start off by listening to the text all the way through in German, read very slowly by a native speaker, and then we're going to break it down. Let's get started.
Mr. Dursley war Direktor einer Firma namens Grunnings, die Bohrmaschinen herstellte. Er war groß und bullig und hatte fast keinen Hals, dafür aber einen sehr großen Schnurrbart. Mrs. Dursley war dünn und blond und besaß doppelt so viel Hals, wie notwendig gewesen wäre, was allerdings sehr nützlich war. Denn so konnte sie den Hals über den Gartenzaun recken und zu den Nachbarn hinüberspähen. Die Dursleys hatten einen kleinen Sohn namens Dudley und in ihren Augen gab es nirgendwo einen prächtigeren Jungen.
Now let's break this down. Mr. Dursley war Direktor einer Firma namens Grunnings, die Bohrmaschinen herstellte. Mr. Dursley was the director of a firm of name Grunnings that drills manufactured, literally. Mr. Dursley war, Mr. Dursley was. War is the third person singular past tense of sein, to be. Direktor, director. Einer Firma, of firm or business. Einer, meaning a, is in the genitive case with the er ending to agree with the feminine noun Firma. So we know that he was the director of a firm. Namens, of name or named. Grunnings, Grunnings. Mr. Dursley was the director of a firm named Grunnings. Die Bohrmaschinen herstellte, that manufactured drills. Die is a relative pronoun referring back to Firma. Herstellte is the third person singular past tense of herstellen, meaning to manufacture. And Bohrmaschinen is the plural of Bohrmaschine, meaning drill. The verb bohren means to drill. Mr. Dursley war Direktor einer Firma namens Grunnings, die Bohrmaschinen herstellte. Mr. Dursley was the director of a firm named Grunnings that made drills. War groß und bullig und hatte fast keinen Hals, dafür aber einen sehr großen Schnurrbart. He was big and bulky and had almost no neck, but a very large mustache. Literally. War, he was, groß, big or tall, und, and, bullig, bulky or beefy, und hatte, and had, fast, almost, keinen Hals, no neck. The word keinen is the accusative form of no or not a, used before the masculine noun Hals, neck. Dafür aber is a phrase that means but for that, and is used to contrast the previous statement. Dafür on its own means for that or of it, and aber is the coordinating conjunction but. Einen sehr großen Schnurrbart, a very large mustache. Here, sehr großen is very large, and Schnurrbart is mustache. Schnurrbart is a masculine noun, so großen has an en ending for the masculine accusative. Schnurrbart is actually a compound noun. Bart means beard, and Schnur is from the verb schnurren, meaning to hum, purr, or whir. This word for mustache etymologically comes from the snout or muzzle of an animal. War groß und bullig und hatte fast keinen Hals, dafür aber einen sehr großen Schnurrbart. Mrs. Dursley war dünn und blond und besaß doppelt so viel Hals, wie notwendig gewesen wäre. Mrs. Dursley was thin and blonde and possessed twice as much neck as would have been necessary. Mrs. Dursley war dünn. Mrs. Dursley was thin. Und blond, and blonde. Und besaß, and possessed. This is the third person singular past tense of besitzen, to possess. Doppelt so viel Hals, twice as much neck. Doppelt means double. So viel means so much. And Hals means neck. Wie notwendig gewesen wäre. As would have been necessary. Wie, how, or as. Notwendig, necessary. Gewesen, been. This is the past participle of sein and goes with wäre, would be, the conditional of sein. Gewesen wäre is therefore would have been. The main verb is wäre, which comes after gewesen because this is a subordinate clause. Mrs. Dursley war dünn und blond und besaß doppelt so viel Hals wie notwendig gewesen wäre. Mrs. Dursley was thin and blonde and had twice as much neck as would have been necessary. Was allerdings sehr nützlich war, denn so konnte sie den Hals über den Gartenzaun recken und zu den Nachbarn hinüberspähen. Which, however, was very useful, because thus she could stretch her neck over the garden fence and spy over to the neighbors. Was allerdings sehr nützlich war. Which, however, was very useful. Was means what, but here is better translated as which, since it introduces this subordinate clause. Allerdings means though, but can also mean certainly. Sehr nützlich, very useful. War, was. Here the verb is at the end of the clause because this is a relative clause, introduced by was. Denn so konnte sie, because thus she could. Denn, because, so, thus. Konnte is the past tense of the modal verb können, can. Sie is she, referring to Mrs. Dursley. Den Hals über den Gartenzaun recken. Stretch the neck over the garden fence. Den Hals, the neck, here in the masculine accusative because it is the direct object of the verb recken, meaning to stretch. Über means over and is a preposition that takes the accusative case. So, den Gartenzaun, the garden fence, is in the masculine accusative. Gartenzaun is a compound noun that literally means garden fence. Und zu den Nachbarn hinüberspähen. And spy over to the neighbors. Und zu den Nachbarn, and to the neighbors. Notice that den Nachbarn is in the dative plural following the dative preposition zu. Hinüberspähen is a combination of three elements. Hin, meaning up to or till, über, meaning over, and spähen, meaning to spy, to peer, or to peep. Together, hinüber means across. So altogether, hinüberspähen is something like to look over at. Was allerdings sehr nützlich war, denn so konnte sie den Hals über den Gartenzaun recken und zu den Nachbarn hinüberspähen. Which was certainly very useful, because she could thus stretch her neck over the garden fence and spy on the neighbors. Die Dursleys hatten einen kleinen Sohn namens Dudley. The Dursleys had a small son of name Dudley, literally. Hatten is the third-person plural past tense of haben, meaning to have. Einen kleinen Sohn, a small son. This is masculine and in the accusative form because it is the direct object of the verb hatten. Namens Dudley, named Dudley. Die Dursleys hatten einen kleinen Sohn namens Dudley. Und in ihren Augen gab es nirgendwo einen prächtigeren Jungen. And in their eyes there existed nowhere a more splendid boy. Und in ihren Augen, and in their eyes. Notice that ihren Augen is dative plural following the preposition in. Gab es, there was. Literally, it gave. Es gibt is the expression used to indicate existence of something in German. Here we have the past tense of this expression. Es gab. Nirgendwo, nowhere. Einen prächtigeren Jungen, a more splendid boy. The word einen is the accusative form of a, used before masculine nouns. It's in the accusative because it is the direct object of the verb geben in gab es. The word prächtigeren is the comparative form of prächtig, meaning splendid or magnificent. And Jungen, of course, means boy. We saw this in the title of the chapter. Ein Junge überlebt. So you might be wondering why we get Jungen here with the N ending. Well, Junge is a weak noun in German, and in this declension, an N is added to the noun in the oblique cases. that is, in all the cases except the nominative. Since this is in the accusative as the direct object of gab, we get Jungen. Und in ihren Augen gab es nirgendwo einen prächtigeren Jungen. And in their eyes there was no more splendid boy anywhere. Now that we've gone through the text in detail, listen to the paragraph all the way through again in German, this time at normal speed.
Mr. Dursley war Direktor einer Firma namens Grunnings, die Bohrmaschinen herstellte. Er war groß und bullig und hatte fast keinen Hals, dafür aber einen sehr großen Schnurrbart. Mrs. Dursley war dünn und blond und besaß doppelt so viel Hals, wie notwendig gewesen wäre, was allerdings sehr nützlich war, denn so konnte sie den Hals über den Gartenzaun recken und zu den Nachbarn hinüberspähen. Die Dursleys hatten einen kleinen Sohn namens Dudley, und in ihren Augen gab es nirgendwo einen prächtigeren Jungen.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe, and head over to Linguisticator.com for our full course in German and our courses in memory and other languages. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.